Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Oh, man. I'm going to warn you right now. I mean, you've probably already seen the length, but it's going to be a long podcast because we have a shit ton of movie news to come out. There was a bunch of movie news that came out last week after the podcast went up because D23 was going on. We have a crap ton of trailers to get to this week, and of course we have all the movie news, and Comic-Con's going on right now. We'll talk about Comic-Con next week. We'll do all that next week, but holy shit, is there a lot of things to get to this week. I do want to mention before we start, because we're just going to go right into it, I did not do a War of the Planet of the Apes spoiler review like I said I was. I actually did end up recording one, but I didn't like how it turned out, even after editing and trying to fix it and everything. I didn't like the way it was, and I didn't want to release something that wasn't good. So I do have a non-spoiler, of course. All my written reviews are non-spoilers, but I do have a non-spoiler written review up on my WordPress account. There's a link down below to that if you want to go check it out. I will tell you that it's a really good movie. It is a fitting end to this trilogy that they have done so far. Probably a near perfect trilogy. I think people can make the argument for that. The movie's great. There's a lot of callbacks and homage and Easter eggs from the original trilogy, and surprisingly they bring a certain point from the original film that wasn't mentioned into this film that makes sense, which I really liked. And I really liked that they kind of tie that into the original series as well, if that's the route they're going to go. But I loved what they did with this, and it's a fitting end to the series, to the trilogy, I should say. I don't know if they're making more. Part of me wish they don't, or at least part of me wishes that they wait a few years if they do. But yeah, that's my quick little dirty thoughts on War of the Planet of the Apes. 4.5 out of 5. If you're interested in that. So let's get right to the rest of the, well, let's start off with the movie news. Of course, we're going to start off with the movie news that came out after the podcast went up last week. Also, I want to apologize for releasing the podcast late last week. I didn't realize how late it was, and I actually stepped away from my computer, not realizing that I didn't press publish, so that is my fault. But yeah, so let's get to this week's movie news items. The movie news items that came out last week. The first one is Fox is developing a movie series. That is interesting. Of R.L. Stine's Fear Street. And they have plans to release the movies months apart. This is pretty cool. So the report says that the up-and-coming horror director Leigh Janiak, who directed Honeymoon, which stars Game of Thrones alum Rose Leslie, aka Yogretti. Leigh Janiak has been brought in to rewrite and direct Fear Street, but they're bringing her in to kind of create this little writer's room that she's already created to write 3 different movies. And the way the report says, or the way the insider told the reporters for this, said that it's being called a binging movies. That's the way they described it. Like I said, Janiak is overseeing a writer's room to make sure that the stories take place in different time periods. So that's pretty cool. Janiak, like I said, up and coming horror director. She directed Honeymoon, which was a hit indie film that came out, I believe, 2-3 years ago. She's also directed episodes of the horror series Scream the TV series, Cinemax's horror series Outcast, and she was previously attached to direct the pseudo reboot / sequel of The Craft. But the report makes no mention of this, so either Fear Street has now become a priority for her, or she's no longer attached to that. Now, for those unfamiliar with this book series, R.L. Stine, of course, the creator of Goosebumps, Fear Street takes place in a fictional city of Shadyside, Ohio. Get it? Shadyside. Some stories feature supernatural activity, and others are murder mysteries. Think of it as a more adult version of Goosebumps, because Fear Street was actually written before Goosebumps, and R.L. Stine tried to cater to the younger market with Goosebumps, and that's when he started creating that. Fear Street, also very popular. It's there's 100 different titles with apparently over 100 million copies sold worldwide. So there's definitely a lot of stories they can choose from. And if this does well, of course, we could probably be looking at a new potential franchise. And I like the idea that they're going to be shooting these movies kind of back to back to back and release them months apart. Because if the first one's really good, or the second one's or if the first one's even okay and the second one comes out and that turns out to be great or whatever, I think this is a pretty interesting idea, and hopefully this turns out really well and fans are obviously there's a huge fan base for Fear Street, but hopefully fans who are not familiar with Fear Street or the idea of this, hopefully this picks up and people pick up on that, and it's pretty cool. Alright, so let's move on to the not D23. Oh, this was connected somewhat to D23. The first trailer for A Wrinkle of Time, or Wrinkle in Time, has come out. It is an adaptation of the novel of the same name, and it will be directed by Ava DuVernay, who of course directed Selma. And the film is described as a reimagining of the novel, with a script written by Jennifer Lee, who wrote Frozen, and follows Meg Murray, played by Storm Reed, her brilliant brother, Chris Wallace, and their friend Calvin on an unexpected adventure into alternate dimensions after their father goes missing. There they cross paths with a number of fantastical characters and creatures, including a trio of celestial beings who help Meg on her journey. The film does have a pretty good cast. Reese Witherspoon, Mindy Kaling, Oprah Winfrey will play the celestial beings in the movie. The film also stars Gugu Mbatha-Raw, Zach Galifianakis, Andre Holland, Chris Pine, who plays the father, and Will McCormick, amongst, of course, many others as well.
What if we are here for a reason? What if we are a part of something truly divine? Imagine 91 billion light years traveled like that.
Sweet dreams are made of this.
Your father has accomplished something extraordinary, also dangerous.
Everybody's looking for something.
He's trapped by a darkness that's actively spreading throughout the universe. And the only one who can stop it is you. Be a warrior.
I'll try. Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disappear?
You're going to be tested every step of the way. Trust nothing.
Darling, time for dinner. Are you lost?
The only thing faster than light is the darkness.
Trey doesn't look too bad, to be honest. I wasn't completely sold on it I don't know why. It wasn't really just grabbing me when I heard the description and everything. And even when the cast came together, I thought the cast was great, but even then it was like, I'll just wait to see what the trailer looks like. And I saw the trailer and I kind of liked it. I thought it was really cool. There's some really cool visuals. There's that kind of creepy little shot of when they're like kind of in this cul-de-sac, and like all the kids come out and they're bouncing the ball in unison, and then their mothers come out in unison and all say the same, and all say the exact same thing. And then they notice Storm Reed's character, and I don't remember if it was her brother in the shot or if it was the friend Calvin, but it doesn't look too bad. I was actually very surprised by the trailer. So for those of you interested, Wrinkle in Time comes out on March 9th, 2018. So we'll be seeing this next year. So yeah, there's that. All right, so now let's move on to the big D23 news that has come out. We're going to start off with the Pixar and Disney animation roundup. The first thing we're going to talk about is The Incredibles 2. The Incredibles 2 will pick up where the first movie left off, and will focus more on Elastic Girl, which is the mother of the unit. So fans, of course, have been waiting for The Incredibles 2 since the first one came out, and since it was announced that they would be doing one. And now D23, again, think D23 as kind of Disney's own little Comic-Con. It's their own little private Comic-Con. So Pixar head John Lasseter revealed to IGN where the film would start off, and like I mentioned, it will start off where the first film left off. He says, it starts right as the first one finishes, so it carries on. It starts with the Underminer and a big old set piece. You know, at the end of the first movie where they come together and see the family dressed up as superheroes, well, that's where we start this movie. Lasseter then went on to say the sequel will continue to explore the family themes, and like I mentioned, it will also follow Elastigirl, once again voiced by Holly Hunter. In addition, it will look like you will be following her on her adventures, so they're doing a little swap here. They're doing, instead of following Mr. Incredible, they're going to be following Elastigirl, so that could be kind of cool. They also say the family will apparently have a new home that is a cross between Dreamhouse and Superlair. So there you go. Brad Bird will return to write and direct the film, along with the voice cast of the first film also returning. The Incredibles 2 does open on June 15th next year, so we'll probably be seeing a trailer sometime around, probably say around Christmas. That's just me guessing, that's not part of the news. Moving on, Disney Animation, Ralph Breaks the Internet, Wreck-It Ralph 2, yes, that is the name of the movie, quite a mouthful, will bring together all the Disney princesses. How about that? The film will follow Ralph, once again voiced by John C. Reilly, and Penelope, played by same thing. Once again by Sarah Silverman, who travel into the internet to find a part to fix the broken Sugar Rush video game. Not only will Ralph and Penelope travel to websites like Marvel, Star Wars, but also every Disney princess will appear in the film, with their original voice actors voicing them once again. They even showed a scene in front of the crowd, of course not released online, having all of them together and poking a little fun at Merida from Brave, not being able to understand her because she's from a different place / different studio, since she is technically a Pixar Disney princess. The scene was set to play well in front of the crowd, so there is that. The studio then bought out some of the actresses, like I'm gonna butcher her name. And I'm really ashamed because she actually seems like a very sweet girl. And she's actually mentioned that a lot of people have been messing up her name. So, Alui Calavojo, I think that's how you say it. I don't know. She voiced Moana. They bought her out. They also bought out Kristen Bell, Anna from Frozen, Kelly MacDonald, who again voiced Merida, Mandy Moore, who voiced Rapunzel in Tangled, Akina Noni Rose, who voiced Tiana in Princess and the Frog, Irene Bedard, who voiced Pocahontas, Linda Larkin, who voiced Jasmine, Paige O'Hara, who voiced Belle, and Jodie Benson, who voiced Ariel. There's no word yet on who will voice Aurora from The Little Mermaid, Cinderella, and Snow White. And of course, I think they'll also be bringing in some of the other ones like Mulan and people like that. But that's kind of cool. They're bringing all together the Disney princesses. That's actually really, really cool. They did also announce that Taraji P. Henson has joined the voice cast to play a character named Yes. Yes, you heard me. Yes, it's Yes with 3 S's. Per the Disney press release, Yes is a new character who owns a website, Buzzaholic. Yes knows everything cool and on trend, and she does spell her name with a triple S. Yes is very savvy, smart, and sexy. So there you go. Ralph Breaks the Internet. Wreck-It Ralph 2 will also bring back Jack McBrayer, of course, who voiced Fix-It Felix. Wow, this is going to be a long one if I can't speak already. And Jane Lynch, and has a release date of November 21st, 2018. Also coming out next year, so we'll be looking forward to that. Little shake-up for Toy Story 4. Toy Story 4 has a new director. John Lasseter, who directed the first 2 movies, has stepped down and given the reins to Josh Cooley, who directed an Inside Out short for the studio previously. Cooley was announced as a co-director when the movie was announced, but will now be a solo director. And Lasseter will still be attached to the project as he is to pretty much all the Pixar movies as an executive producer. The studio didn't show off any footage for the film, but it does look like they will be keeping with the romantic comedy story that they have been touting for a while, and focus on the romance between Woody and Bo Peep, rather than serving as a direct sequel to the original trilogy, which I think is pretty cool. I think that's a really good way to go. So the movie does currently have a release date of June 21st, 2019. We don't know if the director shakeup will affect that release date just yet. And finally, for Pixar, they announced that they are working on an untitled movie that is set in a, quote, suburban fantasy world. It's kind of cool. Director Dan Scollin, who directed Monsters University, announced the new film he's working on. He said the project will not have any humans in the story, but instead follow fantasy creatures like elves, trolls, and spirits. The tone is said to be a mixture of fantasy and the mundane, even giving an example that there will be unicorns in the movie, but that they are the rodents of the world, which is kind of cool. And kind of a little interesting turn on unicorns. So per the press release, they add an extra layer to the concept and story. The press release reveals that the movie is a personal one for Scollin, who lost his father at a young age, and the film is, quote, inspired by the question he's always asked, who was my father? The story is set in a world with no humans, only elves, trolls, and spirits, anything that would be in the side of a van in the 70s. Scollin went on in the press release to say, in the film, we're going to tell the story of two teenage elf brothers whose father died when they were too young to remember him, but thanks to a little magic still left in the world, the boys embark on a quest that will allow them a chance to spend one last magical day with their father. Since the film is still in development, it will probably be a while to hear anything from the film, but it's nice to see that they're gonna kind of do this. This actually sounds pretty cool, so I can't wait to actually watch this when it comes out. Alright, so that was their Pixar Disney animation lineup. Well, let's move on to the live action adaptations that they updated on. The Lion King. They actually showed the Circle of Life scene. You know, the one where there's, they raise Simba up into the ground. The one that's always been made fun of, or not made fun of, but always kind of mentioned online. And the scene played very well in front of the audiences. Apparently, the CGI was top notch, and everyone loved it. So that's good. That's pretty cool. We don't know how it's gonna work out. None of the voices were there. It was just the scene. There was no voices in the movie, but yeah. Apparently, also baby Simba, very cute. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. They also showed. So I seriously cannot speak now. This is gonna be very rough for the rest of the podcast. But they also showed some footage, not necessarily footage, but just a little teaser of Mary Poppins Returns that showed off Emily Blunt as, of course, the new Mary Poppins, and Lin-Manuel Miranda as their new character. Said the footage was said to be pretty cool as well, so there's that. The Dumbo cast and a release date for the live-action Dumbo movie was announced. The film will be directed by Tim Burton and will officially have Colin Farrell, Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, and Eva Green on the cast, along with a group of young and foreign actors who I won't mention because, like I said, they're foreign actors who are either making their debut in American movies or they're young cast who we've never heard of. I never heard of them. I haven't seen them. So there's that. Not only that, the studio also released a official synopsis for the movie. Disney's live-action feature film Dumbo introduces Holt Ferrier, played by Colin Farrell, a former circus star who finds his life turned upside down when he returns from the war. Circus owner Max Medici, played by Danny DeVito, enlists Holt to care for a newborn elephant whose oversized ears make him a laughingstock in an already struggling circus. But when Holt's children discover that Dumbo can fly, persuasive entrepreneur V.A. Vanderveer, played by Michael Keaton, and an aerial artist named Colette Marchant, played by Eva Green, swoop in to make the peculiar elephant a star. So Dumbo does have an official release date on March 29th, 2019. So you can look forward to that if you're looking forward to Dumbo. The live-action adaptation of Aladdin now finds its stars. So last week, we talked here on the podcast how the studio and director Guy Ritchie were having trouble finding leads for their live-action Aladdin movie. So either they made a lot of work since then, or it was all a ploy and Disney was like, ha, we got you, because Disney announced their leads for the live-action Aladdin movie. Naomi Scott, aka the Pink Ranger from Power Rangers, will be playing Princess Jasmine in the movie, and Aladdin will be played by a newcomer, Mena Moassad. I think that's how you say his last name. I'm not sure, but he's playing Aladdin / Prince Ali, and of course they've officially announced that Will Smith will be playing Genie in the movie. So of course Smith needs no introduction. He's Will Smith. Naomi Scott, like I mentioned, she played the Pink Ranger / Kimberly in the Power Rangers movie earlier this year, and she is of Indian descent. Her mother is actually of Indian descent, so let the whitewashing controversy go right by, because that's not true. And as for the new kid, I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name again because I'm going to butcher it. He's a newcomer to the scene. He's done only a handful of TV shows and stuff like that. He will be seen in the Amazon series Jack Ryan with John Krasinski when that comes out. I believe it comes out later this year, so we can look forward to seeing him in that before Aladdin comes out. They still don't have a release date for Aladdin just yet, but I personally like the fact that they went with an unknown. That was their plan all along, to find someone to play Aladdin. But there's people that are already complaining about the casting, which is fine. It was gonna happen anyway, no matter who they casted. But there you go. So that was it. That was their that was the live action little roundup of theirs. But the big news from D23 was, of course, Avengers: Infinity War, because they showed footage of a trailer, which of course we don't get to see because that's who they are. But they also said that Thanos' Black Order will appear in the movie as well. So let's get to. Of course, I'm going to talk about. Let's talk about the Black Order first, and then I'll get to what the footage showed. So Marvel producer Luis D'Apuzito revealed that Thanos' Black Order, or as he puts it in the movie, that Children of Thanos, will appear in the film. Now, in the comics, the Black Order is Thanos' deadly group of warriors, and it looks like they'll play a similar role here. Although specifically calling them the Children of Thanos, will probably add a little extra layer that could potentially play a role with Gamora and Nebula, who are set to appear in the movie. So the members of the Black Order, or Children of Thanos, are Corvus Glaive. I think, first of all, these people have weird ass names, and I've briefly remember hearing about the Black Order, but I never actually read anything about the Black Order, so I'm taking this off from the reports have been given. So I'm just gonna call him Corvus. He is Thanos' favorite general, who has enhanced strength, speed, and durability, and uses a bladed spike that can cut through anything. Apparently, also the spike makes him immortal as long as he has it on his hand. So I don't know if that will play a factor. I don't know if they will be doing that in the movie. We'll see. Proxima Midnight, the wife of Corvus, is a master of hand-to-hand combat and has super strength and is nigh impervious. That's the wording they used. She also carries a lance that has an unavoidable toxic light beam. Don't know if they'll be putting that into the movie, but if they do, someone's going to get jacked up. Black Dwarf, or as he's named in the film, Cole Obsidian, because he probably don't want to call anyone Black Dwarf. He's the brother of Corvus. He has super strength, enhanced density, and impenetrable skin. That should be interesting. Ebony Maw is a genius-level intellect and specializes in persuasion and utilizes a teleportation device and force field generator. So there you go. So there's that. Alright, so that's the Black Order, or Children of Thanos. Now let's get on to the juicy bit, the footage. So apparently everyone had different reactions to the footage. Everyone's reaction was very happy, but there was so many different stuff going on. So what I was able to gather from everyone's is that the trailers started off right away. Started off showing the Guardians of the Galaxy meeting Thor. And there's also a shot with them later on with Iron Man. Loki has the Tesseract Cube, of course from the first Thor movie and from the Avengers. Peter Parker is shown off with his Spidey senses. So everyone bitching that there was no Spidey senses in Spider-Man Homecoming can shut up now. I didn't mind the fact that he didn't have spidey senses because it was probably something he's developed later on. But there you go, he has spidey senses, and also he has a little something else that was teased in Spider-Man: Homecoming near the end. If you saw Spider-Man: Homecoming, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Doctor Strange is in the film. We knew that. He looks like he's casting a spell in the movie. Star-Lord. This is interesting. Star-Lord is battling Thanos. That's okay. Bucky and Black Panther apparently are leading armies of their own. That's kind of interesting. Vision is seen in distress and maybe locked up in a cage. Black Widow has blonde hair. Captain America has a beard, and one of my favorite descriptions that I read when I was reading descriptions from multiple places is that he has a beard, and it looks like he's been through some shit. So there's that. Thanos actually has multiple action shots within the trailer, and I'm not kidding from the description, because one of the descriptions I read, and this is my favorite one, it sounded like he was reaching toward the sky and pulling down a moon, which makes no sense, but we'll see what happens. And apparently it sends fractured comets flying down to the heroes. So if you're not excited reading that, at least that last part, I don't know what's going to get you excited for this movie. So the footage, of course, played in front of the D23 crowd. Everyone loved it, and we're not going to see it. Kevin Feige did come out later and said that we won't see a trailer for Avengers: Infinity War until November, which is, stupidly far away. But one, the film doesn't come out until May of next year, so that's okay. And Marvel knows what they're doing, so let's face it. And two, if we learn nothing from that post-credit scene in Spider-Man: Homecoming, the second one, patience. And I get it. People want to see, we hear the footage and, we get all excited and we want to see it for ourselves. But at the same time, we can wait. I can wait. I want to see it, but I can wait. And I understand why they're waiting to release the footage because, look, D23 is different. D23, it's not just for the fans. There's other people there for the press, and I assume probably some stockholders are probably there too for D23. But at the same time, we have to. The movie doesn't come out until May. We don't need to see something, now, because then we'll be complaining the whole time until May. It's like, where's the next trailer? So settle down. Let's wait. If it's coming out in November, you can be damn sure that it's going to be released sometime around the release of Justice League. So let's just wait. Just chill out. Like I said, Avengers: Infinity War comes out in May 4th, to be more exact, so you can mark it down your calendar. So the last bit from the Avengers: Infinity War stuff from D23 is that Mark Ruffalo once again shuts down that there will be a standalone Hulk movie in the most definite way possible that he can say it. So he was speaking to Variety, and Mark Ruffalo said this, saying, quote, "I just want to make one thing perfectly clear today. A standalone Hulk movie will never happen. Universal has the rights, and for some reason, they don't know how to play well with Marvel, and they don't want to make money." End quote. So there you go. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, or didn't know, or whatever, Universal has had the rights to the Hulk movie for a while now. Yes, including the Edward Norton film that was in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And for some reason, Universal Pictures doesn't want to either share the rights or give the rights back to the character, thus resulting in no standalone Hulk movie. Now, while the idea of a standalone Hulk movie sounds great, and the possibility of it happening is finally done, considering what Mark Ruffalo just said, but crazier things have happened. We now have Spider-Man in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so maybe a deal could be made between Marvel and Universal. Who knows? Anything can happen. Anything can happen, except that Fox will never give the rights to X-Men or the Fantastic Four back to Marvel because they're greedy little bastards. That's right, I said it. I don't know why I said that. Let's move on. It's hot here. All right? It's very humid here where I am. So, anyway, let's move on. So that's it. That was all the D23 news. That was all the movie news items that came out after the podcast went up. let's move on to trailer talk. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we have a shit ton of trailers that came out. It was apparently drop your trailer week because everyone had a trailer this week. So there was a new short trailer for The Hitman's Bodyguard with Ryan Reynolds and Samuel L. Jackson. Kind of a little bit of what we've seen before. Some new little added shots in there. But it's a fun little trailer. If you're already excited for the movie, it's just going to get you more excited. The Hitman's Bodyguard comes out on August 18th. So we can look forward to that. The first trailer for Alpha has come out. The movie is set in Europe during the Ice Age and follows a young man, played by Cody Smith-McPhee, who is left for dead following a hunt. When he awakens alone in the wilderness, he must make his way back to his tribe, but along the way he befriends a wolf, who is also left behind his pack after they were trying to attack him. Together they must fight the elements, and together they form a bond. The movie is directed by Albert Hughes, who was one of the directors on The Book of Eli. And the movie comes out on March 2nd. Looks okay. Visually, it looks great. Hopefully, it's one of those movies where it's not just visual. It's not just all show and no substance. Try to put it that way. So there's that. The first trailer for Leatherface has come out. It is a Renban trailer. It will be. It's a prequel to the very first Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. It will show the origins of Leatherface, and the synopsis reads like this: in Texas, years before the events of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, in the early days of the infamous Sawyer family, the youngest child is sentenced to a mental hospital after a suspicious incident leaves the sheriff's daughter dead. 10 years later, he kidnaps a young nurse and escapes with 3 other inmates. Pursued by authorities, including the deranged Sheriff Hal Hartman, played by Stephen Dorff, out to avenge his daughter's death, the young Sawyer teen goes on a violent road trip from hell, molding him into a monster known as Leatherface. The cast includes a bunch of unknowns except for, like I mentioned, Stephen Dorff and Lily Taylor, who plays one of the Sawyer family heads. Those are the biggest names in the cast. The trailer looks, it looks okay. I mean, it's a Red Band trailer, so there's a lot of gore in the movie. It looks like there's gonna be a lot of gore in this movie. The release is gonna be interesting. It is a direct TV release. There's gonna be a direct TV release on September 21st. So if you have direct TV, you're gonna get to see it before anyone else. But it will come out on a limited release and a full VOD, aka video on demand release, on October 20th. So there you go. I thought it was okay. I mean, I haven't seen the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie in a very long time, but I don't know. It looks okay. It looks okay. It looks very bloody. Put that way, it looks very bloody. So speaking of horror, we'll stick to the horror genre. The first trailer for Jigsaw, yes, another Saw movie, is coming out. It is the 8th movie in the franchise and follows investigators as they try to find out who is committing horrific killings around the city. However, troubles and suspicion arise when all signs point to the long-dead John Kramer, aka Jigsaw. Once again, played by Tobin Bell. Yes, he is returning. Probably just by voice, because that's what the trailer shows, but still. Meanwhile, strangers are also put to a test in Jigsaw's newest deadly game. Is it Jigsaw, or is it a copycat? We don't know. We'll just have to watch the movie. I mean, if you want to watch the movie, I don't know. It's the last Saw movie I watched was Saw 3. And even Saw 3 was like, okay, yeah, I guess. Saw 3 was okay. I personally liked the first Saw movie. I thought Saw 2 was pretty good as well. I think those are personally my favorite two. Not saying much because I've only seen the first 3. But, I don't know. I don't know. It's meh. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure there's fans out there. This movie looks okay. It doesn't look too bad, but the thing is, I don't know if I want to see another Saw movie. We'll see. Jigsaw. The movie's called Jigsaw. Will come out on October 27th. You can be the judge of that. The first trailer for Proud Mary was released. Taraji P. Henson stars as a hitwoman working for an organized crime family in Boston whose family is, quote, completely turned around when she meets a young boy whose path she crosses when a professional hit goes bad. Trailer starts off pretty slow. You don't really know what kind of you're getting into. She's suiting up, in all leather which probably should be your first sign. And then she shows off a hidden closet filled with guns before jumping to a lot of quick cuts of action stuff, car chases, and her, shooting down a bunch of bad guys and stuff like that. So, and more appropriately enough, the trailer is set to the song "Proud Mary" that was done by Tina Turner. The movie will come out on January 12th, 2018. So there is that to look forward to, if you are interested in that. A new short trailer for Wind River has been released as well. It is the directorial debut of Taylor Sheridan, the writer of Sicario and Hell or High Water. Wind River stars Jeremy Renner as a local game tracker in Wyoming who finds the body of a young woman on Native American territory. When an FBI agent, played by Elizabeth Olsen, so it's a Hawkeye Scarlet Witch team-up, is assigned to the case, she teams up with Renner's character to solve the mystery. Movie looks pretty good. I've been looking forward to this since the first trailer. Taylor Sheridan is probably one of the best writers in Hollywood working today, and him making his directorial debut. He also wrote the film, so it doesn't look too bad. So Wind River will come out on August 4th. I believe it's coming out on a limited release before rolling out in wider releases as the weeks go on, so you can look forward to that. The first trailer for Only the Brave was also released, directed by Joseph Kosinski, who directed Tron Legacy and Oblivion. The film is based on a true story of an elite group of firefighters who battled the Yarnhill wildfire, which blazed through Arizona in June 2013. The film has been in the works for a while now and has gone through a couple title changes until finally landing on Only the Brave. The film also stars a pretty impressive cast: Josh Brolin, Miles Teller, Jennifer Connelly, Taylor Kitsch, James Badge Dale, and Jeff Bridges. So that's pretty cool. I actually didn't know about this. I know there's wildfires all the time, but this is following one specific group, so it should be interesting to kind of see how that works out. Of course, there's real wildfires happening right now. I forgot where, but I just saw on the news yesterday. But it's interesting. I mean, the trailer's good. The trailer's really good, and so I'm really looking forward to this. I've been looking forward to this for a while. So finally seeing the trailer and finally seeing all these people together, it's not that bad of a trailer. So Only the Brave comes out on October 20th. You can look forward to that. Not the only movie we'll be talking about that comes out on October 20th, and I'll get to that in just a second. The first trailer for Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman, has been released. We talked about this earlier in the pod. We talked about this when Wonder Woman came out. There was a short 10-second trailer that came out, but now the first full trailer has been released, Professor Marston and the Wonder Woman. The film follows William Martin Marston, the creator of Wonder Woman, and his polyamorous relationship, I think I said that word wrong, relationship with Elizabeth, played by Rebecca Hall, his wife, Rebecca Hall, and the other woman in his life, Olive Byrne, played by Bella Heathcote. The film is actually based off a book by Jill Lepore that was called The Secret History of Wonder Woman, and she also did an interview with NPR on Fresh Air, which the book was about, and which also this movie is about. The film isn't a full-fledged story about the creation of Wonder Woman, by the way. It's the real story of the guy who created Wonder Woman, how his life and how these two women inspired him to make the character. It doesn't look too bad. It's got a pretty great cast. Rebecca Hall, Bella Heathcote, and Luke Evans actually plays Marston in the movie. Connie Britton is also in the film, and it looks like she's grilling Luke Evans' Marston in the trailer. So there's that. It doesn't look too bad. It actually looks pretty good. So should be interesting, especially considering that I didn't know this movie was even being worked on. So they flew under my radar. It's pretty cool. October 27th is when this movie comes out, so you can look forward to that. The first trailer for The Snowman, starring Michael Fassbender, has been released. It is an adaptation of Joe Nesbo's novel, The Snowman, directed by Tomas Alfredson, who directed the original Let the Right One In. The story follows a detective in Harry Hole, played by Michael Fassbender, as he investigates a disappearance that could be linked to an exclusive serial killer. Working with a brilliant recruit played by Rebecca Ferguson, Hole must work to connect cold cases to the new one before the next snowfall. The film also stars Charlotte Gainsborough, Val Kilmer, and J.K. Simmons. This movie looks really dark and gritty, and it's probably going to be really tough to watch, with the death scenes or whatever. But it looks great. It looks like a really solid crime thriller. It really does. And I've actually been waiting for this movie because this movie's been in the works for a few years now. And it wasn't until I think like 2 years ago when Michael Fassbender attached himself to the film. Thomas Alferson, like I mentioned, he directed the original Let the Right One In, which that movie had great cinematography, and it looks like it could take place in the same world because that movie took place in the snow. This one takes place in the snow, and just the way he films night shots is very, very impressive. And the trailer itself is very dark, and like I said, it's probably going to be a very solid crime thriller. I can't wait for this. This is the other movie I mentioned that comes out on October 20th, so you can look forward to that. First trailer for Guillermo del Toro's next film, The Shape of Water, has been released. If you watched War for the Planet of the Apes, you may have seen the trailer in front of that, but it finally came out this week. Online, it follows a lonely mute woman named Elise, played by Sally Hawkins, who performs janitorial duties for a top-secret government laboratory. The facility's greatest asset is its one-of-a-kind inhabitant, a humanoid creature who lives its life entirely underwater. When their paths cross, they find themselves forever changed, but not without consequence. The cast is pretty solid. You got Michael Shannon, you got Octavia Spencer, Richard Jenkins, Michael Stromberg, and Doug Jones, of course, playing the humanoid creature. Obviously, since he's working with Guillermo del Toro. Looks pretty good. It just looks like a really like nice blend of this twisted kind of fantasy, love genre. It looks really. If you had told me this wasn't. If you didn't tell me who the director was, I would have guessed Guillermo del Toro. I really would have, because it has his fingerprints written all over it, and it's really great. It's a really great trailer. I'm really looking forward to it. I know he's been working on this for a while, so I can't wait to watch it. It comes out December 8th, The Shape of Water, so you can look forward to that. First trailer for The Disaster Artist has been released. Which is about the making of the infamous So Bad It's So Good movie, The Room.
Ready, and action!
What line? What line?
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
Okay.
Action!
What is line?
Take 13. Action.
I did not hit her. Okay. Line.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark. Take 67. Action.
I hit her.
No. Do you want to change the line?
You're doing great, man. We'll get there.
Action. Action. Action.
You have
Action.
to say it loud. I can't hear it in here. Say action so I can hear her.
Okay. Action.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
James Franco not only directs the film, but he also stars in the movie as the lead of the movie, Tommy Wiseau. I think that's how you pronounce it. I never actually know how to pronounce the last name. The guy who directed and starred in the Room, he's playing him. And the film actually screened a work-in-progress cut earlier this year at South X by Southwest, which received a lot of positive reviews, even though it was a work-in-progress cut. So there is that. And based on the trailer, which is it looks like it's just the scene itself. It looks like it's gonna be like an unintentional. It's gonna be a comedy, but it probably feels like in real life it wasn't supposed to be a comedy. So it's very really good. I personally have not seen The Room. I have not. I have not willed myself to see The Room. I know a lot of people that I know have seen it, but I don't even know if you have to watch The Room to watch The Disaster Artist. I'm sure you'll appreciate The Disaster Artist more if you've seen The Room, so I don't know, we'll see. So The Disaster Artist will get a limited release on December 1st before getting a wide release on December 8th. The film, by the way, also stars Dave Franco, Seth Rogen, Alison Brie, Zac Efron, Josh Hutcherson, and Jackie Weaver, amongst many others as well. Alright, so let's move on to the next trailer, which is Blade Runner 2049.
I thought you might be able to help me with the case. Any idea where I could find him?
You police plan on taking me in?
I would much prefer that to the alternative.
Every leap of civilization was built off the back of slaves. Replicants are the future, but I can only make so many. I had the luck, and he has the key.
I think I found him.
That's not possible. If this gets out, we've bought ourselves a war.
You're a cop. I had your job once.
Things were simpler then.
What do you want?
I want to ask you some questions. What happened?
I covered my tracks, scrambled the records. We were being hunted.
By who?
They know you're here. You do not know what pain is yet. You will learn. Bring it to me.
This breaks the world.
We have to go.
I'm coming with you.
Where is he?
The future of the species is finally unearthed.
The film was directed by Denis Villeneuve, who of course directed Arrival earlier this not earlier this year. Was it this year? Did it come out this year? I think it came out last year, right? Oh my god, I already forgot when it came out. Anyway, he directed Arrival, let's put it that way, and Sicario, which are very good movies. The trailer is great. The trailer is fantastic. The sequel takes place 30 years after the first movie and stars Ryan Gosling as an LAPD officer K, which is a new Blade Runner, who unearths a secret that leads him on a quest to find Rick Deckard, once again played by Harrison Ford, but there is a much bigger plot at play. The trailer does give a hell of a lot more information and more plot than the first film. We do see Jared Leto potentially, it seems like he's potentially playing one of the villains of the movie. He also plays the creator of the replicants, which if you're not familiar with Blade Runner, there are replicants. Replicants is the term they use in the movie where they're kind of, how do I explain without giving too much away? They're not necessarily they're not clones. They're people that aren't human. But it's very complicated to talk about it without giving too much away. Because if you haven't seen Blade Runner, I want you to watch it because it is one of the greatest sci-fi movies ever made. But yeah, it's Blade Runner 2049. Looks really good. Cast: Robin Wright, Ana de Armas, Mackenzie Davis, Dave Bautista, and Lenny James appear, of course, amongst many others. It looks great. That comes out on October 6th. So let's move on to the big trailer of the week. It would have been Blade Runner 2049 until this trailer came out. 2 new trailers for Kingsman: The Golden Circle have been released. A green band trailer and a red band trailer. Honestly, I really love the red band trailer. I actually kind of geeked out a lot when I saw the red band trailer. Once again, directed by Matthew Vaughn. It follows Eggsy and Merlin, once again played by Taron Egerton and Mark Strong, who after having the Kingsman's headquarters destroyed, travel to America to team up with their American counterparts, the Statesmen, to take down Julianne Moore's villain character, Poppy.
We're from the Kingsman tailor shop in London. Maybe you've heard of us?
Today marks the beginning of a new age. Wait, I'm gonna show you. Say goodbye to the Kingsman.
Kind of got a bit of a save the world situation here.
Welcome to Statesman.
As your American cousins, we'll be working side by side.
Let's get started.
We've got brains, skills, skipping rope.
It's a lasso.
Whatever. Very American.
Yeah, it is.
Manners maketh man.
Do you know what that means?
The trailer's great. Even the Green Band trailer's great, but for some reason I just ended up really liking the Red Band trailer more. Of course, Colin Firth is back in the movie. He's back in the film as Harry. He is sporting the eye patch. Although he is in the trailer, he's mostly kind of in the background. They don't make any mention of him coming back from the dead. So we're probably gonna have to wait until the actual movie to hear the explanation of why and how he's alive, because the trailer is like, oh yeah, he's there. You know, they don't have that scene where it's like, you know, at the end of the last trailer, which is the teaser, where they see Harry and they're really surprised. It's like in this, like they just move. It's like they're missing this massive point, and we're not in on it. So I'm glad Colin Firth's back. I really like this character. I just hope that they make the explanation good. It's like, oh, he got shot in the eye, and that's it. He was just knocked out. No, you get shot in the eye, you're probably gonna die. So we'll see. The rest of the cast is really impressive. Halle Berry, Channing Tatum, Jeff Bridges, Pedro Pascal is in the movie, but they don't mention him in like all the names, which is odd, especially in this trailer, because he does play he's in the trailer a lot in this new one. So I don't know, we'll see. So Kingsman: The Golden Circle comes out on September 22nd. You will definitely be talking about that more when it comes out. All right, that is all the trailers. I told you there was a shit ton of trailers. This podcast is going to be stupid long. I'm sorry, but that's just the way it turned out. So let's move on to this week's news items. John Watts is in talks to return and direct the Spider-Man Homecoming sequel. Although I'm pretty sure this was already announced when before the first movie came out. But anyway, bring it up again. He is in talks to return and direct the sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming, which is really good. Because the first one was really good. He did a really good job, so that's really great. We don't know anything about the sequel other than it will be taking place minutes after Avengers 4. A new character will return to mentor Peter Parker / Spider-Man, and the release date, which is July 5th, 2019. So that's all we know about the sequel. And now that John Watts is coming back, it's gonna be pretty cool. Moving on, Shazam will be the next DCEU movie to start filming. With Justice League in post-production and set to come out in November, and Aquaman currently filming, it looks like we now know what the next film in the DC Extended Universe will start filming: Shazam. Oh, I'm sorry, Shazam! I can't believe I just did that. Anyway, The Hollywood Reporter was the one that exclusively broke this story. Says the studio has finally settled on getting Shazam in front of cameras. The plan is to start shooting in January or February for a likely 2019 release. David F. Sandberg, who directed Lights Out and the upcoming Annabelle creation, will direct a film which revolves around a young man named Billy Batson, who gets superpowers when he transforms into an ancient hero when he yells the word Shazam. There's still no word yet on who will be playing Billy or Shazam, since Billy, in pretty much all incarnations of the character, is a boy, pretty much. And then he says Shazam and he turns into a full-grown man, so we'll see what happens with that. But if this turns out to be true, we could be hearing who will be playing the character very soon. We do know that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson will be playing Shazam's comic villain, Black Adam, who will be getting his own movie, which is pretty cool. But he won't be in the Shazam movie himself, if some reports reported recently are to be true. But the plan is to bring the two together in a future film. We don't know when that future film will be. We'll see. There are also no currently other DCEU movies in the works. The only closest one could be Suicide Squad 2, as the studio is eyeing to start filming next year in the summer, with director Jaime Collet-Serra, who we talked about last week. Wonder Woman 2 is in the early phase of getting a script done, even though it's not officially greenlit. The Flash, of course, is getting a page 1 rewrite and still doesn't have a director for some fucking reason. And The Batman is getting another rewrite from director Matt Reeves. We also talked about that last week as well. So, there you go. Andy Muschietti, who we'll talk about later on the podcast as well, says he will return to direct the sequel to It. How about that? The new adaptation to Stephen King's It is getting some nice buzz after releasing the first trailer, which shattered a trailer view record. So there is that. So there's a lot of people looking forward to that. And it looks like the studio could have another big hit in their hand, and they are very happy with what they've seen, because it looks like Andy Muschietti will return, at least according to him. Speaking with Variety, Muschietti not only seemed to say that he was coming back, but there will be a sequel. Saying, quote, "We're doing that. We'll probably have a sequel for the second part in January. Ideally, we could start prep in March. Part 1 is only about the kids. Part 2 is about these characters 30 years later as adults, with flashbacks to 1989 when they were kids." So there you go. So there will be the 2-part story had pretty much already been confirmed from the get-go, but it's nice to hear that they actually are still going with that plan, and that they are bringing back Muschietti, if he does indeed come back to direct, if his schedule allows him to, considering what we'll talk about later on in the podcast. So I can't wait for it. I actually saw the trailer, and it actually did genuinely freak me out when I watched it, especially at the very end. So we'll see what happens. It will come out on September 8th, so we'll talk about that when we get closer to the release date. Juno Temple and Claire Foy will star in Steven Soderbergh's next film, which apparently he already shot. So Steven Soderbergh's early retirement came from feature-length films, came to a short end, because he will be returning next month with the film Logan Lucky. It's a heist comedy we talked about here on the podcast multiple times. Soderbergh is already working on his next film. Apparently he's already editing it, because he already shot it. And he has 2 stars. Juno Tempo, she was in Dark Knight Rises and Horns. She's been in a bunch of other small indie stuff. And Claire Foy from the Netflix show The Crown will star in the untitled film, although Variety says the current working title is Unsane. Not insane, Unsane. So it's interesting because he already apparently shot it. And what makes it more interesting is that apparently he shot it on an iPhone, similar to what the hit indie film Tangerine did back in 2015. He shot the whole film on an iPhone. So the movie doesn't have a distributor yet, but he could release the film himself through his own production banner, Fingerprint Releasing. So there is that. I just wanted to mention it because it seemed crazy to me that Steven Soderbergh has shot a movie that no one apparently knew about. So, we'll see. I guess we'll see what happens. Mads Mikkelsen is being eyed for the villain character in the adaptation of Chaos Walking. The adaptation of Patrick Ness's best-selling young adult novel, Chaos Walking, may have found his villain. Mads Mikkelsen is in negotiations to play the villain in the movie that already has Tom Holland and Daisy Ridley set to star and Doug Liman attached to direct. The story takes place on a colony planet where almost all women have been killed by a virus, and all living creatures can hear one another's thoughts in a stream of images, words, and sounds called noise. The virus drives many mad until a young man, played by Tom Holland, makes a silent discovery. There is a girl, played by Daisy Ridley, who may be the key to unlocking the new world's hidden secrets. Mikkelsen, if he signs on, will play the mayor of one of the towns that the kids live in, who is searching for the young man he once mentored, and who is a religious-minded keeper of his own secrets who is planning to expand his reach. The film will be written by Charlie Kaufman, or has already been written by Charlie Kaufman, who of course wrote Internal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, and Jamie Linden, who last wrote Money Monster, and will start shooting later this summer for a March 1st, 2019 release. So there you go. I've actually kind of been looking forward to this. I started reading the book not too long ago. I'm not very in. I've been distracted recently. I haven't been able to read as much as I want. So I'm like 3 chapters in. It's not that bad. It's a lot of setup so far. So we'll see what happens with that. The Conjuring 2 writer is working on a remake of The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Warner Brothers is working on yet another remake of the classic film Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And they have a pretty great person in tow to get things started. David Leslie Johnson, who wrote The Conjuring 2, is working on the film. The original film, well, actually not the original film, but the one that everyone knows, which is the 70s version, the 1978 version to be more specific, starring Donald Sutherland, involved aliens crashing into this town and eventually starting to take people over. And a doctor, I think it's his character, as a doctor, he starts to realize and tries to stop it. But we, the audience, don't know who's already been infected and who hasn't. So it's a very great thriller. The source material is actually based off a sci-fi novel called The Body Snatchers that came out in the 50s. And there's been a lot of variations of the story, and there's been a lot of versions. The first movie came out in 56, which is actually 2 years after the book came out. So it came out in 1956. There was a 78 film that everyone knows and loves. There was a 1993 film called Body Snatchers, which kind of just no one talks about that one. And then there was a 2007 film called The Invasion with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig. That was based off the same thing. That one didn't do very well. It's actually considered one of the biggest bombs in Hollywood that year. So yeah, so the 78 film is, to a lot of people at that time, and even still to today, is considered one of the best remakes ever made. So, considering the source material and considering how many versions we've had already, it should be interesting to see kind of how they approach this, especially David Leslie Johnson, who is writing it. But he's been working in Hollywood for a while, and he's a solid writer. So we'll see what he turns up with this. Fox is reassessing the Alien franchise. So Alien Covenant came out, of course, earlier this summer to, let's just call it a mixed reaction, which didn't help considering that Prometheus also got a mixed reaction, but actually got a little bit more on the negative side. Covenant actually ended up also making less money in the worldwide box office than Prometheus, despite being a hard rated R film, which fans wanted, and bringing in the xenomorphs. But considering all that, a new report says that 20th Century Fox is reassessing the Alien franchise, but didn't go into much detail on what that meant. Now, director Ridley Scott has made it clear that he has at least 2 more sequels in mind until the franchise finally catches up to the events of the first Alien film. Of course, Prometheus and Alien Covenant are both prequels. However, now that the studio is thinking over the franchise, we may not be seeing those films. Now, I didn't mind Prometheus. I didn't hate it as much as other people, and Covenant was okay. It wasn't too bad of a movie. It's a good movie until it isn't. That's probably the best reaction I have for Alien Covenant. And Alien Covenant, especially with Alien Covenant, it ended on a bit of a cliffhanger. Michael Fassbender's character, won't go too much into spoiler territory in case you haven't seen it yet and have plans on watching it, but it ends on a cliffhanger, I will say that. And it's a cliffhanger that kind of is a really big setup to future films, and I'm kind of somewhat interested in seeing how they went about that, but I guess we won't be seeing that, especially if they're reassessing the Alien franchise. Part of me also now with this news kind of wishes that Fox will let Neil Blomkamp come in and do his Alien film, which they kind of pushed to the side once Ridley Scott decided to be like, no, I'm coming back and doing another Alien film. They kind of just pushed him to the side and went along with that. So we'll see what happens with the future of the Alien franchise. The Mega Man movie may have found its directors. Yes, there is a Mega Man movie in the works, and it looks like they have directors lined up. Reports say that Henry Joost and Ariel Schulman are in the final negotiations to direct and write the script for the big screen adaptation of Mega Man. The video game franchise was first introduced in 1987 and has since developed over 50 plus games on multiple systems and sold more than 30 million copies worldwide. For those of you who don't know, the game focuses on a robotic lab assistant named Rock that was created by Dr. Light and eventually upgrades himself to save mankind and Dr. Light after being captured by the villainous Dr. Wily. Rock must then face off different challenges along the way, including Dr. Wily's own creations. Needless to say, with 50 games sold, or 50 games overall and 30 million copies sold, Mega Man is a big franchise with a huge fan following, so you better get this right, because people are going to get really pissed off if you don't. I like the idea of a Mega Man movie. For those of you guys wondering, yes, his name is Rock, but they call him, but the game is called Mega Man. Get over it. Because even Street Fighter has that same problem where Bison is actually the character Sagat, and Sagat is actually the name of or Vega or something, or Vega. One of those characters isn't named. Yeah, I mean, just look it up. Look up Street Fighter characters name differences from Japan and America, because the characters are all moved around. So anyway, I like the idea of a Mega Man movie. I think it's kind of cool, but the biggest issue I have, and I'm not the biggest fans of Joost and Schulman. The two did the Catfish movie, which I didn't watch, but they also work on the TV series. They also directed the third and fourth Paranormal Activity movies. I enjoyed the third one. I did not like the fourth one at all. Fourth one kind of blew. They also did the Emma Roberts-led film Nerve last year. So plot details are obviously under wraps because they just started working on it, and there's no projected production date yet. But there's a little fun note on this, and maybe this could be the saving grace. Mazioka, aka Hiro from Heroes, is producing the film, which I think is kind of interesting and kind of cool. So hopefully that is a saving grace for the Mega Man movie. I mentioned Andy Muschietti earlier. We're going to talk about him again. Andy Muschietti is set to direct Robotech for Sony Pictures. Giant robots are all the rage again, guys. Pacific Rim started bringing back the giant robots. So Sony Pictures is once again ready to bring the 1980s anime Robotech to the big screen. The project has been in the works in Hollywood for a while, but Sony picked up the rights back in 2015 and eyed James Wan to bring the film franchise to life last year, but Wan committed to Aquaman, and Sony had to move on, of course, to another director, and they moved on with another director with horror roots for some reason, Andy Muschietti. Muschietti, of course, is going to be probably a household name with Stephen King's It, which we talked about earlier, and he previously directed Mama, which was based off a short that he had directed himself, and of course he directed the feature film as well. So for those unaware with the anime, it's a sci-fi epic that takes place when Earth has developed giant robots from technology of alien spacecrafts that crashed on the South Pacific Island, as we do when we find alien tech. The technology is then used when mankind has to fend off a wave of alien invasions. The film does not have a writer just yet, but the report does note that they could bring in Muschietti and his sister, who is his writing partner, Barbara Muschietti, to either work on the script together or to bring someone else to work with them on the script. So either way, Sony Pictures views Robotech as a high priority, so everything is expected to move very quickly on the project. So we can be hearing a lot more Robotech in the future. We don't know. I remember maybe watching Robotech. I don't remember actually ever watched Robotech. I want to say I did, but I don't know because there were so many other like giant robot things coming out when I was a kid, so I don't know. So there is that. So if you're a fan of Robotech, here you go. Channing Tatum is being eyed for Van Helsing. Now, despite The Mummy not finding a huge audience, at least here in the States, it did make a lot of money overseas. Universal Pictures is still full steam ahead on their shared Monsters universe, which is of course subtitled Dark Universe. The next film is Bride of Frankenstein, which will come out on February 14th, 2019. And they do already have a few other of the monster characters lined up. They have Javier Bardem set to play Frankenstein, Johnny Depp set to play the Invisible Man, and Universal is still eyeing Angelina Jolie to play the Bride of Frankenstein, although they haven't casted her or anyone really for that film just yet. And of course, they already have Russell Crowe set to play Dr. Henry Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in what is believed to be the glue that will connect all these films. Now, of course, the goal is to potentially bring all these characters together. Of course, we'll have Dracula, the creature from the Black Swamp, or the Black Lagoon, I should say, amongst a bevy of other, the Wolfman, and some other characters as well. One character who has been left out is, of course, Van Helsing. Now, early reports when the Dark Universe was first reported on said that Van Helsing would get his own solo film. And it looks like that is the case, especially now that Universal is eyeing Channing Tatum to play that character. The Hollywood Reporter reports that Tatum is being eyed for the famed Monster Hunter. Now, Eric Hessier, who did the script for Arrival, will write the script for the potential solo film, and said that he likes the idea of an everyday hero rather than a superhero stopping monsters. So that could tease a bit of the approach that they are going with the character. Now, things could always change. Everything is still in early development, but they are going the younger route for the character instead of the older route, which again could lead to some interesting story points depending on where they go. Now, obviously, Tatum is only being eyed for the role, and everything is still in early development, so it could be a while before we even hear anything on a solo Van Helsing film. Of course, Channing Tatum will appear later this year in Kingsman: The Golden Circle, and apparently it still sounds like he wants to get Gambit off the ground over at Fox. We'll see what happens. Personally, I mean, again, I wasn't the hugest fan of Channing Tatum, but he has won me over lately. So here's to them. I just hope that Universal fixes the Dark Universe. The Mummy was mediocre, let's put it that way. Noah Hawley, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, is developing a Doctor Doom movie. Yeah, how about that? Hawley is the creator and producer of 2 hit FX shows, Fargo and Legion, and announced at the end of the Fargo Comic-Con panel that he was developing a Doctor Doom movie for 20th Century Fox. That's all he said after the panel. It was like this last little tidbit. It was like the panel was over and he's like, also I'm developing a Doctor Doom movie. And that was it. So that's all he said. But the Hollywood Reporter apparently got their hands on some information saying that Hawley is writing the script with an eye towards directing the movie, which is very interesting. Now, for those that don't know, of course, Doctor Doom is the main villain of the Fantastic Four. This would be potentially his first solo movie. Again, it's still being developed, so we have to take that into consideration. Now, of course, his real name is Victor Von Doom, and he has multiple powers like sorcery and superhuman strength and almost near indestructibility, along with the ability to just shoot energy projectiles. And of course, he has the very iconic look with the iron mask and the green cloak. And he is also a ruler, I should say, of a totalitarian fictional country of Latveria. So I don't know if they'll include that in the movie, but that is a big proponent. That is a big part of the Doctor Doom character. So one hopes that they would include that. Now the movie will, of course, if they do this, potentially act as a reboot for Fox's Fantastic Four franchise, since the studio hasn't been able to get the characters right at all since they've already had them, especially with the last film. Oh man, that was terrible. Starting with a Doctor Doom film could be interesting if it's done right. And Hawley has, again, FX has given him 2 shows, and he's done amazing work on Legion. So I can't imagine this being at least somewhat decent. I haven't seen Fargo. I heard it's very good. So I mean, you don't give the same guy 2 different shows and both of them be very successful and not, think a potential movie that he's going to do isn't going to be great. Also, I would rather watch a Doctor Doom film than the rumored film that there's been a rumor going on that I didn't report on it because, 1, it sounded stupid, and 2, it didn't come from the most reliable source in the world, that Fox was apparently working on another Fantastic Four film, but not following the Fantastic Four, instead following their kids. So I don't know. I if you gave me the option of one of those two films, I would choose the Doctor Doom movie. And also, Doctor Doom is a worthy enough character of having his own movie. Again, if of course done right. So we'll see about that. Now, of course, Julian McMahon had played Doctor Doom in the first Fantastic Four films that started in 2005 and the sequel in 2007, while Toby Kebbell played the Doctor Doom, the bastard creation of Doctor Doom. Let's just say that, because it wasn't really Doctor Doom, really. But I mean, it was, but it wasn't in the reboot back in 2015. So we'll see what happens. I'm interested. I am interested in seeing how this works out. Again, Doctor Doom is worthy enough of having his own film. It's very early stages right now, so we'll see what happens. Sony Pictures, of course, announced they will be doing their own Marvel Universe, and new details have come out on how they're going to approach Silver and Black and Venom. So I know a lot of people were upset when Sony announced that they were going to be doing their own Marvel Universe that was not going to be connected to the Marvel Cinematic Universe that we all know and love. And people got even angrier when they said that Venom was going to be a part of their universe and not the MCU. And, pissed a lot of people off, rightfully so, but, to some extent, I'm still very wait and see about everything. But everything's been pretty quiet. They've been casting directors and stuff like that, but until this point, we don't know anything of what they're going to do. So Variety has a story on how the studio will approach both films, and it doesn't sound pretty bad. So for one, instead of tasking someone to oversee the whole universe, like having their own Kevin Feige or Kathleen Kennedy for Lucasfilm, or Simon Kinberg for the X-Men, all the X-Men franchises over at Fox, Sony instead wants each movie to have a distinct style with a range of different budgets. So they're going to just, assign producers and a director and writers to do it themselves, which is kind of cool. For instance, Venom is seen as a twist on the horror genre, while Silver and Black is going to be akin to a buddy film like Thelma and Louise and Midnight Run. Additionally, Silver and Black director Gina Prince Bythewood commented on this, saying, "I wanted to tell a story of two damaged women who are at war with each other but need each other to survive. She is also looking at the origins of each character in order to explain how Silver Sable became a killer for hire and why Black Cat is drawn to crime. In both cases, if you're a comic books fan, you know these characters, they're haunted by the deaths of their parents. So there is that." As for Venom, which will star Tom Hardy as Eddie Brock and will be directed by Ruben Fleischer, who directed Zombieland, Fleischer is drawing on the influences from John Carpenter and David Cronenberg, which I think is very interesting, while also maintaining a sense of, quote, more pop and fun, whatever the hell that means. Fleischer says that the film will be a Venom origin story and will explore the Jekyll and Hyde dynamic, saying they both become almost a third being, which is what Venom is. There is a famous quote, "You're Eddie Brock, I am the symbiote, together we are Venom." So there is that. And I know, and again, when they hear the words origin story along with Venom, it's not a true origin story because obviously many people know that Eddie Brock was infected by the symbiote that took over Spider-Man, and when Spider-Man finally broke free of the symbiote and infected Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock became Venom. But we'll see how they do that in this movie. So a quote was released by Columbia Pictures president Stanford Panchi, who was interviewed for this Variety piece, and he said this tidbit, which, again, just talking about Venom is going to piss a lot of people off. "I want to honor the original DNA," which, again, I know is going to piss a lot of people off. However, he did bring this up, which is a nice little point, which I totally agree with, saying, quote, "Superhero movies have now transcended the point where they're no longer superhero movies per se. There are essentially genre movies. Not so much that characters have a cape and fly. In Silver and Black, these two women are modern and cool. They may wear costumes, but they are very real and grounded." Which is, again, I agree with. You look at the Captain America trilogy. Yes, it's superhero based, and yes, they have their comic booky moments. But you look at them, and they're like, okay, they have moments where they're genre movies. They're not comic book movies. I mean, the first Captain America is essentially a war film. The Winter Soldier is essentially this, kind of a throwback to the 70s, spy thrillers. Captain America Civil War, is about, picking a side. And then the last bit is about revenge and who can you trust and all that. And Wonder Woman, especially Wonder Woman, it's kind of like, it's a nice origin story who, yes, is comic book related, but it's also set during a war film, and it's about, finding out who you really are, in the case of Diana, played by Gal Gadot. So I like his point about that. The other points about, following the DNA and everything, that's kind of dumb, considering, again, you're not going to be doing that. Although, again, if you want to follow Amy Pascal's quote of the movies being adjuncts in the same world, we'll see. Venom is the only film between Venom and Silver and Black that has a release date of October 5th, 2018. They will start filming this fall. Silver and Black, I keep trying to say Silver Sable and Black Cat, but the movie is called Silver and Black. Also will start filming this fall, but they don't have a release date just yet, so we'll see what happens with that. Alright, so let's move on to the final news item of the week. Whew, it's long, guys. I'm out of breath already. Is Ben Affleck on his way out of the DCEU? Now, oh man, I don't know how to think about this. Now, this wouldn't be completely surprising, but it certainly would be a huge hit for Warner Brothers if it turns out to be true. Now, there have been rumors that have been circulating for a while now that Ben Affleck is either a little unhappy with being a part of the DC Extended Universe, or that he's kind of been wanting out for a while. Now, Affleck will be at Comic-Con this weekend to promote Justice League, which comes out on November 17th, and I'm sure they'll either touch upon it, probably, maybe, who knows if that's even the case, but the report comes from the Hollywood Reporter that said they have a source with knowledge of the situation saying that the studio is working on plans to usher out Affleck's Batman gracefully, addressing the change in some shape or form in one of the upcoming DC films, potentially Justice League. But they don't know when or how that might happen, so that's still a little bit in the dark for that. Now, director Matt Reeves, this is again mentioned in the report, who is rewriting the script for the film, apparently has a trilogy in mind. But with Affleck's age, this is something they mentioned, could play a factor. And actually, if they didn't mention this, I probably would have mentioned this, because Ben Affleck is going to turn 45 in August, and if the Batman film is successful as the studio thinks, Affleck could be playing the character well into his 50s. And he could be in his 50s when the trilogy is over, again, considering if they film the sequels, a few years apart. Also, Affleck is, I didn't realize this, Affleck is the oldest member of the Justice League cast. Jason Momoa is the second oldest, being 37. I didn't know about that. That's interesting. I mean, nothing matters, but it's rather interesting. Now, again, the source could be wrong, but Affleck did already leave the director's chair of the Batman film, although it was said that he wanted to focus mainly on acting and producing, and didn't want another hat to carry around during production, which seems fair considering, this will be the first Batman film in the new DC film franchise, and it'd probably be very hard to take someone seriously as a director when they're wearing a Batman suit. Maybe. The report does go on to mention some possibilities, like bringing in a replacement to take over the Batman mantle. They specifically mention Dick Grayson, aka the first Robin, who of course becomes Nightwing, who is getting his own movie. The Nightwing movie is being developed by the Lego Batman film director Chris McKay, or even bringing in fan favorite Terry McGinnis from the hit animated series Batman Beyond. Now, those are just possibilities. They haven't heard those names. That was just them throwing out some people to take over. Now, personally, I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, if Affleck wants out, then he's out. He hasn't played the character that long. It would be kind of dumb, and I think it would be a little bit too late to recast him. I don't think recasting is the way to go. So I think, replacement would probably be the way to go. And if you think about it, he's already this older version of Batman. He's this grizzled, older veteran that have been doing the Batman thing for a while, and then he left and he came back because of Superman. So we'll see what happens with that. In my personal opinion, I think maybe they can treat Batman like a Tony Stark. And I know people are like, oh, you're mentioning Marvel. No, just hear me out. They can make him like a special attraction for the future films, kind of similar to the role that Tony Stark had in Spider-Man Homecoming. Have him come in for future Justice League films to kind of lend his, guidance or something, or, have him make a cameo or special appearance in other films, but not have him be Batman, have him just be Bruce Wayne and not Batman, and have the replacement be the Batman. Instead of, just recasting him or, writing him out completely, have him, give him the opportunity to be like, yeah, I'm going to go do my own thing and recover or whatever, and I'll come back when you guys need me. That would be a good way. I think that would probably be the best way to do it. Not completely closing the door on him not being able to come back, because I was always a fan of Ben Affleck playing Batman and playing Bruce Wayne, and seeing what he's done so far has been really cool. So I don't know how I feel about this. On one hand, it's if he doesn't want to do it anymore, or if he's unhappy or whatever the situation is. He's obviously going through his own personal stuff. Whatever that is, if he can't give 100% for the role, then yeah, let him do his own thing and let him go off on his own. And if you want to write him out, then write him out. But at the other end, you have this great acquisition in Ben Affleck and this great actor. Don't close the door on him for him never to be able to come back. So hopefully whatever the situation, whatever they do, I hope it's done right, and I hope they, keep a level head and make a good decision and a right decision to at least keep Ben Affleck within the series. At least, don't get rid of Bruce Wayne. You want to change the Batman character and have someone else take the mantle? Okay, fine, do that. But don't get rid of Bruce Wayne as a character. Keep him around. Keep him like a Tony Stark. That's my opinion. I don't know. Again, Comic-Con's going to be a Comic-Con. I don't know if they'll address this. If they do, they'll probably shrug it off and not say anything. That's probably what they're gonna. If it is addressed, that's probably what they're gonna do. But we'll see. And again, we do know that Justice League is going through some reshoots, so we don't know if this has been something that they've been planning all along. If it is, what happens to the Batman film? If they're going to do something in Justice League, what happens to the Batman? Will the Batman take place before Justice League? The events before? I don't know. It's going to be... I don't know. This is interesting. This is a big news item that, it sucks that we don't have too much information, and right now everything is going to be pure speculation until someone comes out and says something. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this. I really don't. How do you feel, guys? Let me know how you guys feel about this. That's not the best way to end a movie news cycle, but that's how we're going to end it, because it's just pure speculation. So, I don't know. Hopefully this gets cleared up sometime soon. Maybe we'll have an answer when Justice League comes out. We'll see. All right. That is all the movie news. Holy crap. That was a lot of movie news to get to. I'm out of breath. You won't know it because you'll know some of it, but you won't know all of it because obviously I'll edit most of it out. But that was a lot of movie news, guys. Holy crap. But all right, let's move on. All right, so obviously things are going to be dropping. Things are already dropping as I'm recording. I could probably tell. Again, Comic-Con is going on right now. We'll talk about Comic-Con next week on the podcast. And yeah, we'll talk about that next week. Obviously, if anything big drops, obviously there's going to be a lot of stuff that drops. And if you want to keep up with all the Comic-Con movie news, you can go over to the Facebook page, facebook.com/moviepit. There is a link down below in the description/show notes area. If you want to go click on that, give me a like over there. It gives you an early preview of what we're going to talk about here on the podcast. There is a bunch of movie news that we didn't talk about here on the podcast just for time, because I knew it was already a packed show. So there's a lot of movie news that we didn't talk about here on the podcast that's up there on the Facebook page. So that will also happen on a regular. So if you want to be up to date on all your movie news, go like the Facebook page and really help me out over there. So during the weekend, obviously I will be updating with all the Comic-Con news, all the trailers that come out from Comic-Con and stuff like that. So go like the Facebook page, or you can just wait till next week where we talk about Comic-Con. So there is that as well. And while you're down there, go like all the other stuff. There's all the links to the trailers are down there. My WordPress account's down there for all my written reviews. Twitter and Instagram are down there as well. So, yeah. Alright, so let's talk about this week's releases, because it's about that time. And I don't want to make this podcast stupidly longer than it already has to be. We don't have any big limited releases this week, so there is that. We're going to talk about the wide releases. The first one is Girls Trip, when 4 lifelong friends travel to New Orleans for their annual Essence Festival. Sisterhoods are rekindled, wild sides are rediscovered, and there's enough dancing, drinking, brawling, and romancing to make the Big Izzy blush. The film stars Regina Hall, Jada Pinkett Smith, Queen Latifah, Kate Walsh, Michael Cutler, and Tiffany Haddish. Not targeted toward me whatsoever, but I'm sure there's a crowd out there for it, so it's gonna make its money back for that. The next wide release, I should say, Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, based off the French comic and directed by Luc Besson. A dark force threatens Alpha, a vast metropolis and home to species of 1,000 planets. Special operatives Valerian and Laureline must race to identify the marauding menace and safeguard not just Alpha, but the future of the universe. The cast includes Dan DeHaan, Carol Delgevin, Ethan Hawke, Rihanna, and Clive Owen, along with the voices of John Goodman and Elizabeth Debicki. I've been kind of looking forward to this. The trailers have been nothing but visually fun to look at. Early reviews for the movie saying that the movie is visually awesome. It's a fun ride. They do admit that it slows down a little bit, it loses some steam near the end, but I'm looking forward to this, and it looks like people are having some fun with it. So, I'm going to be watching that tonight. Dunkirk is the last movie we're going to talk about, directed by Christopher Nolan. Allied soldiers from Belgium, the British forces, Canada, and France are surrounded by the German army and evacuated during a fierce battle in World War II. The cast is mostly filled with unknowns, but big names do fill out the supporting cast in James Darcy, Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy, Tom Hardy, and Mark Rylance. I have already seen Dunkirk. So it's gonna be, I don't want to say too much about it, other than it's really, really good. That's all I will say. I will be spoiler reviewing Dunkirk next week, along with Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets, so you can look forward to my spoiler review on that. I'm just gonna say it's really, really good. That's all I'm gonna say. Alright, so Dunkirk, Valerian, the City of a Thousand Planets, and Girls Trip are your wide releases for the week. Let's move on to this week's box office predictions. I was wrong last week by one little movie, because I didn't lock it down, and I had too much faith in one movie. Or maybe not enough faith. No, I had too much faith. However you want to put that. So my picks last week were War for the Planet of the Apes at number 1, Spider-Man Homecoming at number 2, Despicable Me 3 at number 3, Baby Driver at number 4, and I had a battle for the 5th spot between Wish Upon and The Big Sick. I'm pretty sure I mentioned last week that I hoped The Big Sick was the winner, but I thought that the Teeny Boppers would go and watch Wish Upon. Apparently the Teeny Boppers were the only ones that went to go watch Wish Upon, because Wish Upon opened 7th in the box office. The box office this week was War for the Planet of the Apes at number 1, Spider-Man Homecoming at number 2, Despicable Me 3 at number 3, Baby Driver at number 4, and The Big Sick did manage to break in to the top 5 at number 5. I watched The Big Sick. It was so good. It's a really good movie. If you have a chance to go watch The Big Sick, I highly recommend you go do it, because it is really, really good movie. It's a great film. It's has it all. It has comedy, it has romance, has a little drama. Highly recommend you go watch The Big Sick. All right, so let's get on to this week's picks. It's gonna be interesting. We got 3 wide releases, but I think only 2 are really gonna battle it out, and even then I think one of them is going to reign supreme, and that is Dunkirk. I think Dunkirk is going to be the number 1 movie of the box office. I think War of the Planet of the Apes will hold on for the number 2 spot. I do think Spider-Man Homecoming will beat out Valerian just by a little bit and be the number 3. I think Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets will be number 4, and I think it will be a battle between Despicable Me 3 and Girls Trip at number 5. there is a fan base for Girls Trip. You can't really count out these movies too much, so there is that. Despicable Me 3 still the only kids movie out, so there is that. Spider-Man: Homecoming, very strong, and word of mouth, and people who want to haven't gone and watched it yet. I went to the theaters the other day, and people were walking out of Spider-Man: Homecoming, so there is that. A lot of people were walking out of Spider-Man: Homecoming, so there is that to consider. But I do think Dunkirk will be the number 1 movie at the box office this weekend. War for the Planet of the Apes will be number 2. Spider-Man: Homecoming will be number 3. Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets will be number 4. And again, Despicable Me 3 and Girls Trip will battle it out for the 5th position. I think maybe Despicable Me 3 will get the slight edge. We'll see. All right, everybody, that is the show. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I know it was stupid long. I tried to cut it down, but there were just too many movie news items. And believe me, I cut out a lot of stuff on the podcast. So, yeah. And so again, there's probably gonna be a crap ton of movie news that's gonna drop as soon as the podcast goes up. I am recording this a little earlier than I usually do, so I will be releasing this a little earlier. Like I said, we'll be releasing this a little earlier than I usually do. So hopefully, you never know with internet and uploads and all that stuff. So that is the plan anyway, to be releasing this earlier than I expect. So if anything big drops, obviously you can go to the Facebook page. Like I mentioned, there's a link down below, so you guys can go click on that. Be updated on all the Comic-Con movie news that's coming out. We'll be talking about Comic-Con next week here on the podcast. Hopefully I can find someone to help me with Comic-Con, with all the Comic-Con news. So yeah, wow, that's a lot of news to get to. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. You guys have been great. Wherever you're listening to this, subscribe, follow, whatever. If you're listening to this on iTunes, leave me a review and a rating, and subscribe, and I will read your review here on the podcast. If you're listening to this on YouTube or SoundCloud, hit that follow button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment, leave me a message. Let me know what your favorite news item of the week was. Let me know what movie you're looking forward to this weekend. If you've seen any of these movies this weekend, if you're listening to this on the weekend, what did you watch? What did you think? Let me know. Want to hear your opinions on the podcast, because it's just me on the podcast, and I want to hear your guys' opinions too. So, thank you guys so much. Again, there's going to be a crap ton of movie news that's come out because of Comic-Con. Go on the Facebook page. Just click on the link and follow it. Give it a like. Bookmark it if you don't want to like it. Although I appreciate it if you like it. But I'm going to be constantly updating that as soon as panel recaps come out as well. So thank you guys. I'm done. I'm going to go drink some water because not only is it humid, I didn't bring anything to drink with me. So thank you guys. I will see you guys next week. Like I mentioned, I'll be reviewing Valerian and the City of a Thousand Planets and Dunkirk next week early on the podcast, and we'll be talking about Comic-Con next week. I'm done. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy your weekend. Have a safe, fun one. And as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!